Hi everyone, I am Dr. A.R. Vijay Babu, working as an assistant professor in Department of EEE, Vignan's Foundation for Science, Technology and Research, deemed to be University. So we are going through the unit number 2, which is solar PV module. So in this we have already gone through some of the topics such as what is a solar cell, what is a solar module, what is a solar array, what is a solar string, and also we have gone through series and parallel interconnections of solar cells in a module, and afterwards we have gone through series parallel interconnections or PV array interconnections. Then we have gone through the placement of bypass diodes and blocking diodes in a solar PV modules, and after that we have also seen shading of solar cells, and finally we have seen what is a hotspot. Now in this particular lecture, let's focus our attention on fabrication process of solar modules, ratings of PV modules, standard operating conditions, normal operating conditions, normal operating cell temperature, in short NOCT. And then we are going to see what is the effect of this standard operating conditions and normal operating conditions on the performance of PV modules. And later we are going to see the effect of irradiance and temperature on the performance of PV modules. So now let's start our first topic of the discussion, that is fabrication of solar modules. Right? So it is the fabricated cross-sectional view of a PV module. It consists of so many parts. At the center you have the solar cells, and the solar cells are sandwiched between many layers. On the top you have encapsulant, again you have a tempered glass, and then aluminium frame. In the bottom of a solar cell you have again an encapsulant, backsheet or Sedler sheet, and finally you have a junction box. Let's discuss this assembly of solar cells or into solar modules one by one. Right? So once the solar cells are fabricated in a solar PV plant, the last step is to test the solar cells. So why we have to test these solar cells? In order to find out the efficiency and power output of these solar cells. So what we will do after testing the solar cells? So we need to segregate the solar cells into identical groups. That is, for example, there are 100 solar cells which are fabricated in a solar PV plant. Now we have to sort them into different groups in such a way that I have taken a cell number 1 and I have found out the efficiency of cell number 1. It comes out to be 17%. Now I place this solar cell number 1 in a box number 1. Now I will take a second cell and I will calculate the efficiency. I came to know that the efficiency of this solar cell is 17.5%. Now I will keep this solar cell which is having 17.5% efficiency also in box number 1, in which previously I have placed 17% efficient cell. Now I have taken a third cell, then I have tested the efficiency of this third cell, and it comes out to be 19%. Now I take this solar cell and keep it in box number 2. Right. Now I will take the fourth solar cell, and when I found out the efficiency of it, it comes out to be 19.2%. Now I have to keep it in box number 1 or box number 2. I have to keep it in box number 2 because the efficiency of this fourth cell, which is 19.2%, is correlating with the efficiency of a solar cell number 2, which is having 19%, and that's why I'll keep these two cells in a particular box. And likewise I'll sort all these 100 cells into different boxes. Now why I have to make them into boxes? Now what is a solar module? Solar module is nothing but interconnection of solar cells in series. So in order to make a module, we need to see that each and every cell in a module should be identical. It's practically impossible to manufacture or to connect a number of cells in series in a module which are having identical characteristics or identical efficiencies. So at least we need to make efforts in such a way that the solar cells which are connected in series in a module should be of approximately similar efficiency and power output, and that is the reason why we will sort these solar cells into different boxes, and after making them into different boxes we will use them to fabricate a solar module. The solar cells in box number 1 will be used to make a solar module. The solar cells in box number 2 will be utilized to make module number 2. The solar panels in box number 3 will be utilized to make a module number 3, and so on. Right? It is how we have to sort the solar cells after they have fabricated in a PV plant, and this process is called cell sorting. And after the cell sorting, we have to do two more things, that is tabbing and stringing. As you can see in the picture over here, tabbing and stringing, that we will see in the next slide. So what is tabbing? So after sorting the cells, the metal contacts in the form of metal strips are shouldered at the front side of the solar cells, and this process is known as tabbing. As you can clearly observe here, there is a large silicon ingot, and after you cut that ingot into different shapes, and finally you manufacture a wafer out of it. And after vapor is produced, this vapor is a p-type material which is having 100 micrometer thickness, and you have to diffuse the phosphorus on top of this p layer in order to make some part of the p layer as the n-type semiconductor, and thereby you are having a p-n junction arranged. And now you need to do a process called tabbing. What is tabbing? Tabbing is nothing but creating a metal contacts on top of a solar cell by means of soldering. You can see at the tabbing they are given two strips, and those two strips are positive strip and negative strip. So for each and every cell you need to make two different strips on front part of a solar cell, and this process is called tabbing. And why this tabbing is made? This tabbing is made to collect the current produced in a solar cells and send it to the external load. Now after tabbing is done, as per the requirement of the module, the number of cells is then interconnected in series, and this process is called stringing. Stringing is nothing but connecting the each and every cell in series. It is nothing but a stringing. So how you will connect it? So the cell number 1 is having positive and negative terminals, and cell number 2 is having positive and negative terminals. So the negative terminal of the first cell is connected to the positive terminal of the second cell, and the negative terminal of the second cell is connected to the positive terminal of third cell, and so on. And then this process is called stringing. You are keeping the solar cells in the form of a string, and that's why you call this process as stringing. So typically in a solar module you will see 36 cells. The commercially available solar panel will have 36 cells in a solar module, because the voltage across each and every solar cell is 0.5, and 36 into 0.5 will be how much? 18 volts. So in order to get the 18 volts panel, you need to interconnect at least 36 cells in series. So this is the first step of the fabrication of solar modules. So once the solar module is prepared, you can see in the figure over here, once the solar module is prepared, now what you are doing? You are keeping that in the center of the arrangement. Now you can see that it's only solar cells. On top and bottom we have different layers, and that different layers we will discuss one by one. And now in order to ensure long life of these solar cells, they are required to be protected from the environment in which they operate. It means the modules in the environment can erode the metal contacts, that is the moisture in the environment can erode the metal contacts and affect the anti-reflective coating on the cells. This results in the degradation of the cell performance. Therefore, you need to protect the cells from the environment. At the same time, the cells also have to be protected from rain, dust and mechanical shock apart from moisture. Moisture will affect the anti-reflective coating. Rain, dust and mechanical shock, and these are different other parameters which will affect the performance of a solar module as well. So in order to protect them from environmental damage, the PV cells are packaged using two sheets of encapsulant on either side of the electrically connected solar cells. That is, the solar panel should be sandwiched between two encapsulant, and the encapsulant which is used in the solar PV module fabrication is ethyl vinyl acetate, in short EVA, and this EVA is used as a encapsulant for silicon PV module manufacturing, and thereby you need to keep this solar panel in between the two encapsulant layers as seen in the figure. The next process is this encapsulant cannot provide rigidity to the module. Even though it protects from the environmental damage, but it cannot give strength to the PV module. So for which glass is used at the front side of the module. On the top side, you will use a glass over this encapsulant. So generally the glass which is used has low iron content, toughened and textured glass. Right? So normally a low iron content, toughened and textured glass is used on front side of a module to provide rigidity to the PV module. These low iron content glasses are used because they have a higher transmittivity, that is over 90% of the solar radiation spectrum they can transmit onto the PV modules. That is, when first light falls on a glass, the glass should have a capability of transmitting the complete solar radiation onto the module. So this glass is having 90% efficient and it can transfer 90% of the solar radiation spectrum onto the PV modules. And that is the reason why we'll use glass on top side of a PV module. At the rear side of a PV module, we'll use a hard polymerized material called polyvinyl fluoride, PVF. And this polyvinyl fluoride is commercially known as Tedlar. And this Tedlar is used as a backsheet below the encapsulant at the rear end of the solar module. So why we are using a Tedlar at the rear end of a solar panel and why we are using glass at the top end of the solar panel? Why don't we use glass on both top and bottom? It's because glass is more costly when compared to the Tedlar, and generally protection of a solar module have to be done from the front side mostly, and that is the reason why high costly glass is used at the top end, and at the bottom only rigidity is enough, and that is the reason why we will use Tedlar at the bottom of the solar module structure. At the same time, there is no need to transmit the light. If I use Tedlar at the top, then this Tedlar will prevent the solar radiation from entering on the PV module. But from the back side of a solar panel, no radiation will fall on the PV module, and that is the reason why we place Tedlar for rigidity at the rear end and glass, that too low iron content tempered glass at the top end of a solar module. The purpose of both this glass and Tedlar is to give rigidity or strength to the PV module. You can see it in the figure over here. We have first the solar cells, and this is sandwiched in between two encapsulant EVA layers, and this complete combination is sandwiched again in between a tempered glass at the top and backsheet or Tedlar at the bottom. Right? Now, so following this stringing, the sheets of glass, electrically connected cells, encapsulant on either side of the cells and Tedlar are arranged together and placed in a machine called a laminator. So once the stringing is done, you need to place two encapsulant on top and bottom sides of a stringed cells, that is a PV module. So following the process of stringing, the solar module is sandwiched in between two encapsulant layers called EVA layers, and on top of them you have a glass, and on the bottom of them you have a Tedlar. So all these things are arranged in a proper order, and now you have to place them in a machine called laminator. And this laminator consists of a chamber equipped with heater, vacuum pump and air pressure unit. So what is the purpose of this laminator? This laminator will remove the air from within the gaps of these layers, and it will make this in a hermetically sealed PV module, and that can operate in outside conditions for up to 20 to 30 years without environmental degradation. That is the reason why we need to laminate all these parts. Right? You can see, for example, the thickness of the glass which we are using is around 2 millimeters to 3.5 millimeters. The EVA per sheet thickness is 0.4 millimeters to 0.5 millimeters. That is, we are using two sheets of EVA, and thereby the thickness is 0.8 millimeters to 1 millimeter. And then the solar cells are having a thickness of about 0.15 millimeters to 0.3 millimeters, and the thickness of this Tedlar sheet, which is kept at the bottom or the rear part of the solar cell, is 1 millimeter to 2 millimeters. Right. So we take all these sheets and we'll keep them in particular order, and then we'll place them in a machine called laminator, so that there in between these different layers will be completely removed by means of a vacuum pump. And once you do this lamination process, the solar modules can withstand the environmental degradation for 20 to 30 years when they are operated in the outside environment. See, there are two important steps in a PV module fabrication. They are lamination and curing. So what are these steps? During lamination, air inside the chamber of the laminator is removed, right? Pressure is also applied from top side of the chamber to drive out the air and moisture present in the laminate. So at the same time, the module is heated to about 80 degrees centigrade to 100 degrees centigrade, during which the EVA, that is the ethyl vinyl acetate, which is an encapsulant which is sandwiching the PV module, melts and surrounds the electrical circuit, forming the seals to the glass at the top side and Tedlar on the rear side of the module. And this process is called lamination. Right. The first important step of a module fabrication is lamination. So in this lamination, we will do two things. The first thing is we will remove the air and moisture from the laminate, right? And the second thing is we will heat this solar module combination to around 80 to 100 degrees centigrade, so that the ethyl vinyl acetate melts and surrounds the electrical circuit, forming seals to the glass and Tedlar on front as well as on the back sides of the module, and we call this process as lamination. So after lamination, you have to undergo a process called curing. So after lamination, the PV module have to undergo a process called curing. So after the lamination, curing is done, in which module is heated to around 150 degrees centigrade to 200 degrees centigrade, during which polymerization of the EVA occurs. So because of the curing, polymerization will take place in the EVA, which is nothing but formation of cross links of chemical bonds, which provide strength and durability for long term. So this curing process is done in order to provide strength and durability for the solar panels for a long term. In the lamination process, we need to heat it to 80 to 100 degrees centigrade, and it will be followed by a process called curing, where we will heat it to 150 to 200 degrees centigrade, where the polymerization of the EVA takes place and forms the cross-linking chemical bonds, and this provides the strength and durability to the solar modules for a long time. The overall lamination and curing process will be completed in just 1 hour. So it will take 1 hour to complete the overall lamination and curing process. So after the lamination and curing process is completed, modules are supported using aluminum frames. You can see it here. After the lamination and curing, both the process are completed. Now that assembled or laminated PV module should be framed with aluminum frames for mechanical support. Also, a plastic box called junction box containing electrical points for external electrical connection is also added at the rear side of the module, and this plastic box also contains the bypass diode and blocking diodes. You can see it here. Also, a plastic box containing electrical points for external electrical connection is added at the rear end of the module, and this black box, you can see there, is called a junction box, and this box also consists of blocking and bypass diodes. You can see in the figure clearly. On the rear side of the PV module, you have using a black box, and this black box consists of three devices. The first one is a blocking diode, second one is a bypass diode, and third one are the electrical connections. Right? Now you can see the complete structure of a solar module. You have a solar PV module at the center, and on top you have a encapsulant followed by transparent film followed by aluminum frame. At the rear end you have a encapsulant, you have a back sheet, that is Tedlar, and followed by the junction box. So a PV module is sandwiched between three different types of layers on top and bottom sides of it. The first sandwiched layer is encapsulant. The second sandwiched layer consists of, at the top you have a transparent low iron content tempered glass. At the rear end you have a back sheet of Tedlar sheet. The third sandwiched layer is aluminum frame on the front end and junction box, which consists of blocking and bypass diodes as well as the electrical connections at the rear end of a solar module. At the end, modules are characterized for their IV and power output. Right? So once the solar module is fabricated, now you have to perform the test in order to find out the IV characteristics of a solar module as well as to find out the efficiency and power output of a solar module. And usually a sticker is kept at the rear end of a module giving the voltage, current, peak power of a solar module. As you can see it here, on the rear end of a solar module you have a attachment or a sticker, and the sticker will give the information like what is the open circuit voltage of a solar module, what is the short circuit current of a solar module, what is the peak power of a solar module, what is the voltage at the peak power, what is the current at the peak power, what is the temperature coefficient of ISC, what is the temperature coefficient of VOC, what is the temperature coefficient of maximum power, how many number of cells are there, and what is the thickness of this solar panel. All these things will be given in terms of a nameplate details which are sticked to the rear side of a solar module. With this, the solar module fabrication is completed. Let's see the flow chart of module fabrication. You can see the first step is, after solar cells are fabricated in a plant, you need to take them, and from there your module fabrication starts. The first step in the module fabrication is cell sorting, followed by contact soldering at the front side, and this process is called tabbing. Then followed by series interconnection of cells, and this process is called stringing. And after stringing, you are preparing a laminate assembly with ethyl vinyl acetate called encapsulant, Tedlar and glass. From that, prepare a lamination assembly. You will do the lamination and curing process. In a lamination, you will heat it to 80 to 100 degrees centigrade, and you will remove the air from within the laminate. And in the curing process, you will heat it to around 150 to 200 degrees centigrade, and thereby polymerization of the EVA takes place, and this results in the durability and rigidity of the solar module for a long term. After this has been done, then you need to do the module framing and external connections by means of a junction box. And finally, after preparing the PV module, now you will do the PV module IV characterization, and then you will keep a nameplate details sticked onto the rear end of a PV module. This is how the solar PV module fabrication process will take place. Fabric will be given in terms of a nameplate details which are sticked to the rear side of a solar module. With this, the solar module fabrication is completed. Let's see the flow chart of module fabrication. You can see the first step is, after solar cells are fabricated in a plant, you need to take them, and from there your module fabrication starts. The first step in the module fabrication is cell sorting, followed by contact soldering at the front side, and this process is called tabbing. Then followed by series interconnection of cells, and this process is called stringing. And after stringing, you are preparing a laminate assembly with ethyl vinyl acetate called encapsulant, Tedlar and glass. From that, prepare a lamination assembly, and after preparing the lamination assembly, what you will do? You will do the lamination and curing process. In a lamination, you will heat it to 80 to 100 degrees centigrade, and you will remove the air from within the laminate. And in the curing process, you will heat it to around 150 to 200 degrees centigrade, and thereby polymerization of the EVA takes place, and this results in the durability and rigidity of the solar module for a long term. After this has been done, then you need to do the module framing and external connections by means of a junction box. And finally, after preparing the PV module, now you will do the PV module IV characterization, and then you will keep a nameplate details stick onto the rear end of a PV module. This is how the solar PV module fabrication process will takes place. You can see here. Let's see the concept of PV module fabrication one by one. You will take a large ingot and then you will cut it into small ingots, and then you will slice these ingots into wafers, and then you will diffuse the phosphorus on top of this wafer. This wafer is a p-type layer, and when you diffuse phosphorus, which is a fifth group element, on the top of this solar cell, it will form a n-type material. So n and p-type material you will get a p-n junction here. So after that, you will do a process called tabbing. That means you will create a metal contacts on top of a solar cell, and then you will perform a process called stringing, which is nothing but wiring the metal contacts in series. Now let's see the module fabrication process at a glance. Right. So first you will take a large ingot, and then you will cut it into small ingots, and then by slicing and cleaning them, you will produce a p-type wafer. And after the wafer has been produced, you will diffuse the phosphorus atoms on top of it, and thereby top 1 micrometer thickness will become a n-type layer, so that you will form a p-n junction. So after the p-n junction is formed, now you make metal contacts by screen printing on front surface of a solar cell, and that process is called tabbing. After the tabbing is conducted, then you will do wiring of these metal contacts in order to arrange the solar cells in series, and that is what is called wired cells, and this process is called stringing. And then arraying of a glass substrate, and then you can see, then you need to put these solar cells on a glass substrate, and then you will seal it with resins and films. It is a protective film or encapsulant film. And then you will fix the aluminum frames so that the complete module is fabricated. So once the module is fabricated, now you can keep them in different arrangements of PV arrays. Right? You have a cell. Cells connected in series is nothing but a module, and modules connected in series or parallel is nothing but a PV array. Fine. Now let's see the ratings of a PV module. The solar PV modules are rated in terms of their peak power. W in suffix you have P. What do you call that unit? Watt peak output. Peak power output is watt peak. The watt peak is specified by the manufacturer under so-called standard test conditions. What are the standard test conditions? The standard test conditions of a solar module testing are irradiance of 1000 watt per meter square, or one cell or module temperature as 25 degrees centigrade, and one more thing, that is the air mass, which should be 1.5. Now you don't consider the air mass here, we will consider the cell temperature and irradiance. And the module rating of STC is widely accepted by manufacturers and users worldwide. That is the reason why manufacturers will specify the nameplate details of a solar modules at STC of 1000 watt per meter square and 25 degrees centigrade. But the condition specified in the STC does not occur for most of the time and locations. This is because of two reasons. The first reason is the real solar irradiation is generally less than 1000 watt per meter square, but we will calculate the efficiency of a solar cell at 1000 watt per meter square. The second reason is the module temperature and the real operating condition is more than the STC specified temperature of 25 degrees centigrade. In a places like ours, the winter temperature itself is 35 degrees centigrade. In the summer, we may reach up to 50 degrees centigrade. So, we are calculating the efficiency of a solar module at 25 degrees centigrade in the laboratory for specifying the nameplate details. But in the real environment, we have a temperatures ranging from 35 to 50 degrees centigrade, and thereby the module performance got affected. So both these reasons result in lower module output power than the expected under standard test conditions. For example, at the standard test conditions, if the efficiency of a solar module is 17%, which is specified by the manufacturer, when you take that solar panel and when you are using in the real-time environment, you will get an efficiency of just 15% only, because of these two reasons. Because we are not operating the solar panel continuously at 1000 watt per meter square, because the sun radiation will vary throughout the day. In the morning it will be less, in the afternoon it will be high, and the evening it will be less, and thereby you will never get 100 watt per meter square every time. And one more thing, the temperature of the module, the temperature in the real-time environment will be from 35 to 50 degrees centigrade, but they are specifying the efficiency at 25 degrees centigrade, and because of these two reasons we are getting a reduced efficiency of a solar PV modules under the real conditions compared to the test conditions. So there are two important operating conditions apart from standard test conditions. And what are those? Standard operating conditions SOC and normal operating conditions NOC. Apart from STC, the researchers have proposed two different conditions called SOC and NOC for the solar panels operating in the real environment. So in order to have a realistic figure for the possible power output from a PV module, the performance of the module is described in two other test conditions. And what are those? Standard operating conditions SOC and normal operating conditions NOC. What is standard operating test conditions? The SOC refers to the radiation of 1000 watt per meter square, and solar module temperature is NOCT. What is NOCT? Normal operating cell temperature. So what is STC refers to? Irradiation of 1000 watt per meter square and solar module temperature of 25 degrees centigrade. So in place of 25 degrees centigrade, we are placing a temperature called NOCT, which is normal operating cell temperature, while keeping the radiation constant. We are changing one parameter here. Keeping the radiation at the same place, we are changing the cell temperature to NOCT from 25 degrees centigrade. And what is an NOC? That is normal operating condition. It refers to an irradiation of 800 watt per meter square and a cell temperature of NOCT. Now in this case, we have modified both the things, both irradiation and cell temperature, both are modified. In SOC, only cell temperature is changed from 25 degrees centigrade to NOCT. But in case of a NOC, apart from changing the temperature from 25 degrees centigrade to NOC, they have also changed the radiation level to 800 watt per meter square. So both SOC and NOC uses a different concept of temperature called normal operating cell temperature. What is this normal operating cell temperature? See, the NOCT is defined as a temperature reached by the solar cell in an open circuited module under the conditions of 8000 watt per meter square irradiance and ambient temperature of 20 degrees centigrade. So what is NOCT? When you operate the solar panel at 8000 watt per meter square and an ambient temperature of 20 degrees centigrade, now the solar cell will be heated to some temperature, and that temperature is called the normal operating cell temperature. And this normal operating cell temperature can be used to give more realistic cell temperature of the module under operating conditions, and is usually lies in between 42 degrees centigrade to 50 degrees centigrade. As we have already been discussed, the temperatures are generally will be in the range of 35 to 50 degrees centigrade in the real environment. Now, if you keep a solar module at 800 watt per meter square and an ambient temperature 20 degrees centigrade, and if you measure the temperature of the cell solar module, then the temperature will be in between 42 degrees centigrade and 50 degrees centigrade, and that value in between a 42 degrees centigrade and 50 degrees centigrade is nothing but a normal operating cell temperature. Now tell me, what is this SOC? Standard operating conditions refers to the conditions where the irradiance is 1000 watt per meter square and the cell temperature is 42 degrees centigrade, right? And what is NOC? It is normal operating conditions, refers to the conditions where the illumination is 800 watt per meter square and cell temperature is NOCT, and this NOCT lies in between 42 degrees centigrade and 50 degrees centigrade. So the relation between the module temperature, ambient temperature and normal operating cell temperature as well as the solar radiation intensity will be given in the following equation. That is, T module, that is the module temperature, is equivalent to the ambient temperature plus normal operating cell temperature minus 20 by 0.8 into solar radiation intensity P input. That is, this NOCT minus 20 by 0.8 is a constant, and the value of this constant is generally 0.025, and thereby the temperature of the module will be equivalent to the ambient temperature plus 0.025 times the input solar radiation. Now let's see the effect of this SOC and NOC on the performance of a PV module. So the module will give peak power at STC. You can see that in the graph you can see the solid line, black color solid line, and that solid line is the IV characteristics of a PV module which is drawn at STC, that is at 1000 watt per meter square and 25 degrees centigrade. Now the power output decreases under SOC, that is standard operating conditions, due to higher temperature called NOCT, normal operating cell temperature. What is this normal operating cell temperature? It lies in between 42 degrees centigrade and 50 degrees centigrade. At SOC, what are the characteristics? Illumination is same as that of the STC, that is 1000 watt per meter square, but temperature is changed from 25 degrees centigrade to NOCT. This NOCT will be in between 42 degrees centigrade and 50 degrees centigrade, and thereby the temperature is increasing, and thereby the PV module performance got decreased. And you can clearly observe it there, as the temperature increases, the PV module performance got degraded. Now you can see that line called SOC line, that is a dotted line. You can see with increasing temperature, which we have already seen in the last semester, as the cell temperature increases, short circuit current increases, but both open circuit voltage and peak power decreases. Because same thing is observed here. At STC, you have a black curve. Now you may assume that the ISC is 4.5 amperes and the VOC is, on the x-axis you can see it will be 23 volts. At SOC, what happens? The temperature is increased from 25 degrees centigrade to 50 degrees centigrade, and thereby as the temperature increases, the current increases, that is the ISC increases, whereas what happens now? The voltage decreases. You can clearly observe it in the picture over there, the second dotted line curve, which is the characteristics of the same IV module at SOC. Right. So what happens there? As the temperature increases from 25 degrees centigrade to 50 degrees centigrade, the ISC is constant. Because the same radiation, slightly there is a change in ISC, but VOC, you can see it on the x-axis, it's completely reduced from 23 volts to 20 volts. And you can also see the peak power, that cross mark on the top. On the STC curve, you have the peak power at the top, and on the SOC curve, the peak power is reduced. Now let's operate the solar panel, the same module, under NOC, that is normal operating conditions. What is this normal operating conditions? You have to reduce the illumination as well from 1000 watt per meter square to 800 watt per meter square, and cell temperature should be at NOCT. Now you can observe it here, the dashed line, the dashed curve is the IV curve of a solar module at NOC. You have reduced the solar radiation intensity. So when the solar radiation intensity reduces, the short circuit current is reduced, because the solar radiation intensity and the short circuit current are directly proportional. As the radiation intensity decreases, the ISC is decreased. On the y-axis you can see the radiation has decreased from 1000 watt per meter square to 800 watt per meter square. The ISC is decreased from 4.5 amperes to 3.9 amperes. So the power output reduces by an amount 20 to 25% under normal operating conditions due to reduced irradiation as well as the higher temperature called NOCT. And you can also observe that the crossbar called peak power, the peak power is reduced drastically from by about 20 to 25% in case of a NOC. Now let's see the effect of solar radiation on PV module performance. You can clearly see here ISC, that is a short circuit current, is directly proportional to the solar radiation intensity. What is the open circuit voltage? NVT ln of Ip plus I naught by I naught, and thereby the VOC is proportional to the logarithm of photon current, and this photon current is proportional to solar radiation intensity, and thereby VOC is proportional to logarithm of solar radiation intensity, whereas ISC is linearly proportional to solar radiation intensity. As you can clearly observe in the figure over here, as the radiation decreases, the IV curve shifts downwards. Initially you operate the solar module at 1000 watt per meter square, keeping the temperature constant. Now what happens? You can find out a red color curve. You can obtain a red color curve, and then you reduce the intensity to 750 watt per meter square. Now the ISC is decreased and you can get a pink curve, and the red curve is shifted to pink curve. Now you further decrease the radiation to 500 watt per meter square, the pink curve is shifted to blue curve, and if you further decrease the radiation to 250 watt per meter square, the blue curve is shifted to green curve. It is how. So what is the observation? You can see it here. As the solar radiation intensity increases, the current increases linearly with the solar radiation intensity. At the bottom you can see the solar radiation intensity increases. At the bottom you can see the increase in solar radiation intensity will reduce the open circuit voltage logarithmically. That is, as the radiation increases from 1000 watt per meter square to 750 watt per meter square, the voltage is slightly reduced. And from 750 to 500 watt per meter square, the voltage is further reduced. And now when the radiation is 250 watt per meter square, the voltage is still further reduced. But this decrease in VOC is very minimal. Now you can see, but VOC, which is the x-axis point, is directly proportional to the logarithm of solar radiation intensity. That is, it will ISC will increase linearly, but VOC will increase in a step-by-step manner. As you can see here, at 250 watt per meter square, you can observe the green color curve, which is nothing but the curve which is touching. You can observe the green color curve, right? Now if the radiation is increased to 500 watt per meter square, the green color curve is shifted to blue color curve, and you can observe that the voltage is slightly increased. And when the radiation is increased to 750 watt per meter square, you can observe the pink color curve, the voltage is again slightly increased. When it reaches 1000 watt per meter square, again the VOC increases, but the increase is very slight, right? At the same time, if you observe the current at 250 watt per meter square, if you have 1 ampere, at 500 watt per meter square you have 2 amperes, at 750 watt per meter square you have 3 amperes, at 1000 watt per meter square you have 4 amperes. It is a linear increase in the current, but logarithmic increase, that is a slow movement of increase in the open circuit voltage. That is, the short circuit current is a light generated current and increases linearly with increase in solar radiation intensity. The open circuit voltage increases logarithmically with increase in solar radiation intensity, and maximum power also increases with increase in solar radiation intensity. You can see that dotted line. As the radiation is increasing, the maximum power point is also increasing. The voltage increases rapidly up to 200 watt per meter square, and then is almost constant. Current increases proportional with irradiance. So with increase in cell temperature, the voltage decreases drastically, whereas the current increases only slightly, and this results in the net loss of power, because power is a product of voltage and current. So you can observe here the temperature coefficient of current is positive, the temperature coefficient of voltage and power are negative, and thereby as temperature increases, the short circuit current increases. As temperature increases, the open circuit voltage decreases. As temperature increases, the power also decreases. You can observe in the graph over here on the x-axis side, as the temperature is increasing from 0 to 25 degrees centigrade and then to 50 degrees centigrade, the curve is shifted from back to the front, that is from pink to blue and blue to red, that is the voltage is reducing. As the temperature increases, the module voltage reduces. As you can see on the y-axis side, as the temperature is increasing, the short circuit current is slightly increasing from pink to blue, blue to red. Pink is at 0 degree centigrade, blue is at 25 degree centigrade and red is at 50 degree centigrade. As the temperature is increasing, the current is moving upwards, that is increasing. And you can also observe the peak power. The peak power is also reducing. As you can see, you will get the highest power at 0 degree centigrade, and that is the pink curve. And you will have a decrease in the peak power which is shown in blue curve. And if you further increase the temperature to 50 degrees centigrade, there is a further reduction in peak power as depicted in red curve. So let me conclude the lecture. So in this lecture we have gone through the fabrication process of a PV module, and this fabrication process consists of different steps. The first step is the cell sorting, followed by tabbing, followed by stringing, followed by lamination assembly preparation, followed by a process called lamination and curing, and then you need to set up the aluminum frames at the front side, and you need to set up a black box which consists of bypass diode, blocking diode and electrical contacts at the rear end of a PV module. And after this PV module is fabricated, you need to test it and you need to keep the nameplate details at the rear end of a PV module. The second concept which we have discussed in this video is ratings of a PV module. The normal or the standard test conditions of a solar PV module is STC, that is an illumination of 1000 watt per meter square at a temperature of 25 degrees centigrade. Apart from these two, the researchers have specified two more parameters in order to get the ideal characteristics of a solar cell which is operating in a real-time environment, and those two are SOC and NOC. What is SOC? Standard operating conditions, and it refers to an irradiation of 1000 watt per meter square and a cell temperature of NOCT which is ranging from 42 degrees centigrade to 50 degrees centigrade, and this NOCT is called normal operating cell temperature, which is the temperature of a solar cell when the solar radiation intensity is 800 watt per meter square and the ambient temperature is 20 degrees centigrade. And the second condition is NOC, which is normal operating conditions, which refers to an irradiance of 800 watt per meter square and cell temperature of NOCT, which will be in between 42 degrees centigrade and 50 degrees centigrade. Later we have gone through the effects of SOC and NOC on the performance of PV module, and we have clearly observed that the PV module performance is least in case of a NOC because both irradiation and temperature are changed from the STC. Right? And finally we have gone through the effect of temperature and irradiation on the performance of a solar PV module. And with this we have completed our second unit. In the next video, let's see our third unit called maximum power point tracking or solar PV tracking systems. We will see in our third unit. Thank you.